Hey Soul Tribe, it's Kate and Kerry. We are so excited to have you hear this new episode. Please review and subscribe at the end. It's free and it helps us keep spreading our message to you, our awesome listener. Thanks so much and enjoy the episode. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Soulsessed Twins with Kerry. I am Kerry, your host from California.
Hey guys, it is Kate all the way in New York. What's up?
And we're super excited to get another episode on the books. This one is a really tough one that we think to get into would be super helpful. And it's about forgiveness, but on the angle where someone won't forgive you and how to keep going and deal with that regardless so that you can not feel torn apart by it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And I love that you brought this up, Kerry, as a topic, because we did do an episode on forgiveness and the benefits of forgiving somebody and how to do that. But there's always this other side of the coin where you can apologize and you can sincerely apologize and you can do it multiple times and someone still may not forgive you. And I definitely had that experience and, think something like that happened to me. So it is so important to understand what is it all about? What does it feel like? And how do you get through something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, if you like the person that's not forgiving you, right? It's super troubling. I mean, there's no way around it. It's really troubling. And what I was thinking about when I was thinking about it, it's more troubling to you based on how your parents treated you with forgiveness or not. Like it always stems from childhood.
Yes. Yeah, I guess what is being, the example, right? I guess being taught that, yeah, growing up, you are right, because it's something I really learned how to do myself, of how to forgive someone that has really harmed me. It was all through the process of recovery, and having that experience of walking into recovery and getting sober. And I've said it like multiple times in the episodes that we've done, I walked in with anger, full of pride, this false ego, all of that. And so much of it had to do with not getting honest with my own part and wanting to clear the deck, but didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to get my life in order and own up to the stuff that I did.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just really feeling the wounds of the past, right? Like anything that I took on, basically, it's like survival instincts, right? And so, what my point is that it's really from like parental days, being raised as a kid, is how your parents handled things when you made a mistake, right?
Mhm.
Or fell out of their favor. And for me, when I messed up, I just remember, as a kid, your parents are your world, right? They give you shelter, they give you food, they give you everything. So when they're upset with you, it's like alarm bells go off in your body. And if they're just ignoring you, which is, how they handled it and didn't talk to you for days or a day or whatever, shunned you in a way, as a kid, that creates such alarm bells and fear because you're not going to get what you need, right? And that's what would happen to me. So whether the adult was thinking it was a good thing to just stay away, keep time, right? Get some space, take a breather, but it not being communicated. And now we know better is to communicate. Look, I'm going to take a minute. I love you still. I'm not happy with what you did, but I'm going to take a minute over here. We'll talk a little later, right? Always communicating, always explaining. But when that's not done, you're left with terror, right? Oh my God, I'm not okay. I don't know what to do. And I'm not going to get what I need, especially from this person that is super important to me. So when a friend of mine that I held in high regard was mad at me, even if you say you're mad at me, I've had to really work through that wound, that terror, so that I can be the parent to myself now that I needed then and heal. So that's where I'm coming from with like, wow, it really comes from the past and
Mhm.
past, right? And it's going to affect you based on how they dealt with things.
Right. You're either really taught forgiveness in a home or you're not. And, that's where grudges come in. That's where learning the idea of being perfect, never messing up, even it just was unacceptable. Not, I would really have to think about that. It definitely existed in our house, but I'm also thinking about other people that have been raised and the way that they were raised and seeing that perfectionism. And, it goes a long way of, when someone says like, I'm a perfectionist, like think about when that kind of a person messes up, and it had to have been taught that there are no mistakes.
100%.
And that's a tough road. That is a tough load to carry. And the only way that I really understood from forgiveness, and almost you study it, is, yeah, of course, it's like street cred. You got to go through it. But how to go through it the right way is studied. It is. You have to look at it. You have to understand it, research it, read on the topic of forgiveness for you to really understand how you're to do it, and to get back to when somebody doesn't forgive you, how do you handle that and what that feels like in that process.
Yeah. And it's easy to say, like, what somebody thinks about you is none of your business. Yeah. And that's 100% true. But I still feel like shit about this. This is still really bothering me. Like, it's not just a slogan to just sort of be okay and walk away, fine with. It's like, I need to do the work. So, people in my life that I've, you know, had these examples come to have been such a great lesson and teacher for me to go inward and heal and get free, right? So that we're not terrorized or feeling anxious or just going about our day like, oh my God, I don't know, they're mad at me or mad about it. Like, fuck them, they're mad at me. Like, they can fuck off. But that's not a healed space, right? You're still bothered, right? That's still bothering you. So Kate and I are going into, well, what do you do? Right. And when I was sober, so talk about, being in recovery, it's true. Everything just becomes like a spotlight because you're not hiding behind anything, right? And so I had this girl in recovery be what was called a sponsor. And she was just an incredible narcissist, right? So everything was my fault. It was just insane. And she would shun me and not talk to me for days if I had done something wrong. But she wouldn't tell me what I did. She just would not talk to me. And it was like terrifying, right? Because she was like my mentor. So, AKA bringing up like my mom stuff, right? And my mom didn't mean to ignore or shun. She just was mad and would rather not get in a fight. And, it's like sort of a good way to handle it, but you have to communicate. So it reminded me of all these wounds. And I finally, like, I had to go inward to start to heal. Like, what is going on? Like, why does she bother me so much? It's like, who is this person? Right? It's like, okay, if somebody's bothering you that much, you have work to do.
Mhm.
It's never the other person. It's when you're that upset. It's like, okay, what's going on here? Right. And that's where I was like, oh my God, this is my childhood wounds. Like, this is little Kerry. Like, I can't live being petrified or so messed up if someone's mad at me. Right. That makes no sense. And it's like intolerable. So doing the work, it was like getting in there and sorting it out to heal and feel some comfort, be the comfort I always needed, and started to heal it. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
because it's not coming from the other side. These are, when I was not forgiven, it really was the lesson for me to understand forgiving myself and forgiving. It's where I found that whole compassion. It's where I broke my sense of perfectionism and that nothing could ever be wrong. And if you are, like, yeah, it's off, like you're off, it's scolded, X'd out, all of that for a day, for a couple of days, whatever it is. And the terror is the non-communication of it, right? So, thinking about, just to say, whatever, like, I'm really pissed off right now with what happened. I love you, but I'm going to take a minute. I need time and I'll let you know. And just, I mean, could you imagine, just having that understanding instead of being ghosted? And yeah, there's the hysteria. And if you're finding that in your life today, and you have conflict with someone, or you've done something, you've made a mistake and they're not forgiving you, and you are hysterical about it. Hysterical is historical. That's what that saying comes from. If you're hysterical about something, then it typically, like 99% of the time, it is stemming from childhood. It's some unhealed wound. It's some you know uh, dysfunctional pattern that you have not yet healed and done work on. And, like, yes, as painful as it is, here it is. There's the good thing about it was me learning that I was fallible. So if I'm fallible, how are others not fallible? And learning, that is where I got the idea and the feeling of, I can forgive someone else, because it's like, there go I, right? But for the grace of God, go I. And it is exactly that. It's like, I became friends with my faults. I became friends with my mistakes and my understanding of myself, that I am not perfect and I don't want to be perfect. And guess what? You don't have to be either around me.
Yeah. And can I just tell you, it's so freeing. I mean, how freeing is that to be like, yeah, I mess up,
Mhm,
right? I mean, I would hold myself on the cross. It's
mhm.
like, it was so insane, the standards I had for myself. And it's amazing and so great that you're bringing this up. It's like perfectionism. It's just like, and which then you can't, every single thing's a criticism. There's no constructive anything. Everything's a put down. Everything's against you. Everything's, just a criticism in a bad way. And when you start to really see, like, oh, I mess up, like, you have to, yeah, allow yourself that ability and capability and, like, okayness to, no one's perfect.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mess up. And it is so true. That's a huge, way to be able to forgive someone else, even though we're talking about someone not forgiving you. But if they can't, that's their stuff. Like, that's where it's like, what someone thinks about me is none of my business. But what you're feeling and how you're dealing with this is yours. That's what your business is. Right. So if they can't, they have work to do. It is helpful to me actually to think that and know that, like, man, like they're something I did, or I remind them of something of their own past that they need, to do work on. And for me to get to the work I need to do internally so that I'm not so bothered about it is
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'll go back with my own experience with this is in the beginning of hurting someone, or in the begin. And then here's the thing though, I am talking about when I have messed up, and I'm not talking about like sexual abuse or homicide, any type of someone killing someone that you love dearly. I don't have experience with it, so I don't want to talk about that. My experience in not being forgiven are slights, the everyday slight of what really the sticking point, I guess, the tough experience that I had is with family and getting to know each other, and with in-laws and all of that, and both sides not handling it well, coming into a new family. No one had experience with it. They have their own pattern of who they are to each other, and now in comes a new person, whoever that, husband, wife, whatever. And of course, the family is going to be disrupted the way that it was. And my slights over the course of getting to know each other and trying to become part of a family where there was and is a lot of perfectionism, and the slights started to happen on both sides. And we're not talking like major stuff. Like, an example would be, my husband and I didn't go to a party that, one of our family members were having, and called before and was like, you know what, we're not feeling up for it. I was pretty still newly sober. This is probably 14 years ago. So I was 14 or 15 years ago, 3 or 4 years sober, and I just moved back out to Long Island, and everything is new. I'm now living with my boyfriend, at the time, now husband, and I was just coming really out of the world of AA and coming into like the real world where, everyone is out and about and meeting people outside of AA. And, this family, this wasn't a family party. It was actually their own party, and that we had been invited to, which was really nice. And it really shows me. And, when I was thinking back at this, your sobriety, when you're getting sober, nothing can come before that. Nothing, like nothing comes before my sobriety. And I felt terrible. I was like, I am not feeling up for this. I don't think I'm going to be comfortable being with brand new people, being in this big party where there's drinking and all of that. I'm not feeling up for it. Made the call. I hope you understand all of that. That was 13 or 14 years ago. We were never invited again. And so, apologizing for it and doing those things, it just, that moment, I think, started these little tit for tat kind of experiences. And, apologizing for minor slights and it not being accepted, and apologizing numerous times and not even caring wanting an apology from the other side. I wasn't looking for it whatsoever. Neither was my husband. Just still was never forgiven. And now when that happens, like Kerry's saying, when somebody doesn't forgive you and you've done your damnedest to correct the situation and own your stuff, you kind of start to say, does this have anything to do with me? Does this have anything to do with me? When they are pretty slight, they're, not making a birthday party or a Christmas party, unkind words being said and trying to clean it up. And when it's just not forgiven, you got to start to realize that this isn't about you.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's like, and also too, yeah, to just when you're healing, to just realize people have work to do and I've done everything I can, right? So that you feel good in your efforts to amend it and to heal it. And it's like, man, like I've done everything. I totally feel bad about what I did. I get it, but I just couldn't go. And that was me taking care of me. It wasn't anything malicious or anything trying to be cruel or just, whatever. It was, look, I didn't feel quite ready in your own self knowing that. Like I wasn't sturdy enough. I didn't feel 100% sturdy. And it wasn't, a safe place for me to go just yet. And I know in my heart of hearts, it wasn't intentional to be mean, and that's what you got to be true with. And then it's like, look, right, and I got to move on,
Yeah. And
and forgive
also,
yourself and keep going, right?
yeah, and my door is always open for
Yeah.
sure. But you will start to see boundaries too, when again, like, that you've done everything that you possibly can in a loving, kind, true, forgiving way, and it's years go by. Yeah, there is some peace to be made with yourself, because again, it has nothing to do with you when you've owned your part. And for me, I always just pray for that other person, and my door is open if the behavior of now them has changed.
Yeah.
I accept imperfectionism. I don't expect, and you can't be in a relationship with someone that only expects perfectionism from you.
Yeah, because it doesn't exist and that's not a real relationship. It's like people are not perfect. And yeah, so what has really helped me, honestly, the tips and the tools that have worked for me to work through this, because it's old trauma, and people like to say, there's big T and there's little t. And whoever it affects you is big or little, it's T. Okay. It's trauma. So
Mhm.
what's helped me too is to really journal, right? Journal it out to just, it calms your nervous system and just helps you to, understand your side of things, get to take more responsibility, if need be, but get you clearer on your side of the street, calms you down, and can get into the wounds that are going on there. What's going on, right? And then writing and journaling is fantastic, but it is in our body. So you have to go inward eventually
Mhm.
to comfort yourself, to really close your eyes, and get in there and imagine the little part of you, that littler person of you that's so scared in a way, um, and comfort her. Say, you're okay. You're not the worst person on the planet. You're not, a terrible person. You messed up. Yes. Or it was deemed that way. They're hurt. Okay. You're not the worst person in the world. You don't have to kill yourself. All this stuff where we can go and we do as kids that we still have in there to heal it and start to quell it. And this isn't a one-time show. This happens a lot. It takes a long time to heal those pathways, right? It's like a recording and it hits a tape that starts playing, and we have to stop it and start a new track,
Mhm.
right?
Definitely. And what I was going to offer too was what happens to our bodies when we don't forgive. And Johns Hopkins University did a study on all of that, and it really affects your health. And when we don't forgive, chronic anger, remember, I mean, I experienced it. Chronic anger puts you into a fight or flight mode, which results in numerous changes in your heart rate, right? And your blood pressure and immune response. So anytime that fight or flight mode is up, your cortisol levels, your stress levels, right, are up. And those changes then increase the risk of depression and
100%. This
heart.
also, is if somebody isn't forgiving you, that you can be irritated and having anger, right? So it's like to get to forgiving somebody else, fine, but to even stay on the topic of the podcast, it still is all of this stuff. Goes to depression, goes to high blood pressure, goes to fight or flight, staying in that, oh my God, that fight or flight on if they're going to forgive you or not, creates the same exact response and health problems.
Yeah, and Johns Hopkins study also, I didn't get to say the last part of that, was the produces heart disease and diabetes. And of course, like that makes me think of food.
Mm.
So, right? Like if you're, because I think if you're not born with it and you develop diabetes, that has to do with your diet. I believe. I'm pretty certain that's true. So it makes me think, of course, like if we're not addressing our fallibleness, right, and acceptance that we aren't going to be forgiven every time, and that you have to be okay with yourself. If we don't do that work, we'll eat over it, we'll drink over it, we'll suffer over it, we'll get depressed over it, all of these things. So yeah, it is either side, but I just remember when I came in and had done no work, how bottled up, how ready to explode I was feeling with not addressing this stuff. And once I did, yeah, the freedom within it is so incredible. The self-understanding, the self-love, the self-nurturing, all of that, like it's just incredible.
Yeah, it is. And it's so true. It's like, because leaving us in that state of not looking at what's really going on here, like I'm bothered, and not just continuing to walk around with it, you are feeling so vulnerable, right? And it's like to be able to be there for yourself and comfort that vulnerability so that you can be stronger and, as a person, and get to know yourself, be there for yourself, so that when somebody, doesn't forgive you or is an asshole, your cards don't fall to the ground, right? Your whole castle doesn't just get washed away when a wave comes. It's like, no, you find sturdy ground that you can stand tall in, because you know yourself better, and you know you're not an asshole. Because if you're doing this work, chances are you're not an asshole, right?
Well, you could have behaved like an asshole, but the whole thing is like the whole work is coming clean,
Right.
is seeing, your faults at, of course we can all say, oh, but she did this and he did that and they did this and they did that. The whole point of, really changing your ways and focusing on healing and getting better, and in whatever you can call that, any type of therapy, just even going to therapy, you have to get honest with yourself, you have to come clean with yourself. And in the beginning of the not being forgiven, it is extremely painful, it's confusing, it's all those things, why. But as life goes on and you're continuing to live in this world of, spirituality, a better way, well-being, personal development, all of that, and the knocks come softer. If someone's not willing to forgive me and I've come clean, I've owned up to it, I've sincerely apologized, like that, it's so much easier now to say, like, that's too bad. I love them. Well, what was the lesson here? And move on. Move on.
Yeah. And get into, just doing the work about it and then moving on if need be. And that's it. Also, breathing exercises are amazing. Breath work is amazing, guys. It truly is. It gets you in your body and it heals you wherever it's stored. I don't want to say molecular, but it is molecular. It's in our body. My computer's going to die in a second. So let me just grab my charger.
Oh, okay.
A few things.
Yeah. So good point about the tips and the tools that you can use to learn, to be okay with basically not being forgiven is absolutely journaling about it. Because at the end of the day, you only need you. You only need you to work on and to validate and to accept and to really get nurture from. Of course, I have massive support left and right, but at the end of the day, it's up to me. It's up to me to accept and love and forgive myself for life. I see it that way now. It was unacceptable before. It's acceptable to fuck up today. It just is. So the journaling is wonderful, to be with yourself and uncover stuff you don't really even think, are unaware of. And the breathing is huge. I use breath and breathing into the belly, not the chest. I want, if you give yourself a moment to try both ways to breathe. I just did this with my son, Harry, who's 10 and was nervous about going to a lacrosse game. And I just said, make sure you breathe into your belly and not into the chest. And it's like, what are you? And I'm like, let's do it. Let's see. And he was like, oh my gosh, I see the difference. I feel the difference.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wow, that's so cool. Especially being young, that they'd be able to see it sooner, I feel like more immediate. I don't know, because they have less shit blocking them. Um, yeah, that's wild. I forget what I was gonna say, of course, and my brain sucks, but
We were saying, so the tools that help: journal, breath work, cry, grief, like sucks, like be sad about it. Allow yourself to grieve and be sad and nurture that part of you until you are out of it.
yeah, I mean, it is something for me that I've really had to do a lot of work with. I don't know why. It's something that throws me into terror if somebody doesn't like me or I think someone's mad at me or something. It's just a big one for me, especially with you too, like I just get like, especially when we first reunited, like so much came up when we were getting closer because I didn't want it to ruin it, right? I didn't want it to go away again, but also whatever was left there was coming up to the surface. And I would just was like, whoa, like I really couldn't believe it because at some point, like if you're not like as close or something, you can be like, all right, well, they have work to do and okay, and sort of move on. But when we were getting closer, I really felt the terror of if I thought you were mad at me. And it's helped me so much because thank God I knew what to do, right? And also I was like, I can't live like this. Like I have to get more freedom here. Like this is insane. Like, because you feel like the person holds you in their hands, right? Your life and your wellness can't depend on if somebody likes you or not, and your well-being be in their hands like that. So I was like, okay. I have work to do. And it was just internalizing that I, messed up and was unforgivable and just remembering being a kid and
Right.
having to then soothe myself to be okay. And I still have work to do there, but I'm telling you, it's so much less. But this is a big one for me. This is no joke, guys. So it's like if this, it's like I get it 100%. This is a lot of central nervous system and all that stuff getting thrown out of whack, and it's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, and also too, I've been a lot more removed from emotional abuse than you have. So
Yes.
you were treated like this up until 2020, up until 3 years ago, you were being fucked with on a daily basis, being in the cult.
Yeah.
So I, can understand why it's still feeling hysterical to you, right? Because they weren't teaching you that. I mean, they love that control, the power, the owning of you. And so, this is great because, life never ends, recovery never ends, wellness never ends. And I certainly have my own lessons that I'm being taught, but I thought too, just to share quickly, because someone did ask me this, a friend of mine saying that, how did you welcome Kerry so quickly back after she was out of the cult? How did you, are you forgiven? Are you, do you forgive her like that? And I have to say, I was so blessed with the women that I had in my life at that time when she did go away to California, to teach me this element of forgiveness. And it wasn't so much forgiveness for me, it was understanding. And it was so easy to understand that she was being manipulated, that brainwash immediately happened. The grief and the pain of it was really hard. That was just, living with a hole inside of me for 15 years. And, ultimately we really reunited 17 years later, which is last summer. But I never had anger about, of course I was like pissed, like, God, like, when is this going to end, like that? But I never had I guess I could just say hate towards you. I never had that. I only had real grief, because I really, really understood how fucked with you were being.
You have no idea. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just being apart, away from it and fully out of it now. I'm like, oh my God, it's unbelievable. The gaslighting, the fucking brainwashing, all that stuff. And I was in a cult. It was horrendous, right? And so Kate knew that. She knew. And when I left, like, everyone in New York was like, don't talk to him, it's a cult and all this. So there was some cognizance of it. And in, the New York AA, people knew that and would tell her that. And of course, it's still hurtful. There's no doubt about it. It was still, horrible situation to go through and to be in. But it was more torture on both sides than anything else.
And the guy was not who you wound up marrying. This was just some, guy that was in the cult that was poaching you. But we will be doing, guys, in the future of this, there is going to be an interview between Kerry and I about, we know you have so many questions, and it will be coming. So just like hang on to your hat for that one. But, these are like little tidbits of the experience that we've experienced.
Yeah, totally. Do you want to try to wrap it up now then? Okay, very good. All right, good guys. We hope you loved it. I hope it was useful. Yeah, just great. Another great experience to be together.
Awesome, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Always connect with us on Instagram. We love your questions. We love your topic suggestions, all of it. We love hearing from you. Get Soulsessed.
Later. Stay tuned, guys. We are thrilled to be here with each other, and feel so privileged to try and carry a message of hope and positive change to one other person out there. So please subscribe and review and share our podcast to reach that person. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Soulsessed Twins, and get daily inspo and connect with us.
Let's build this community together.
100%. So come back next week and we'll see you then.
Get Soulsessed with us, Soul Tribe.
That's it. Bye, guys.